So we will call the meeting to order at 12:14. And Sue, would you do the attendance?
Board Member Barkus. Here. Board Member Doyle.
Here.
Board Member Cease.
Here.
Board Member Chambers.
Here.
Board Member Davis.
Here.
Board Member Plank.
Here.
Board Member Jeffrey.
Here.
And Board Member DeVore is absent. And Chair Reagan.
Here. Need a motion to accept the absence of Mike DeVore. So, second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Approval of the agenda. Need a motion for that?
Yeah. I move motion approved.
Okay, Charlie, is there a second?
Second.
Lori? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Approval of the minutes from the previous meeting from March 7. Need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Okay, Rick, is there a second?
Second.
Any corrections or changes on those at all? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And update on the treasurer's report.
Okay. Our current balance is $750,462.03. All of the TIFA revenue has been posted. Transfers out have been made. So we're kind of closing the end of the fiscal year here. This was based on a capture for 2023 of $38 million. Our DDA capture next year for 2024 will be approximately $43 million. So values have gone up in the DDA. Also, I've included the accounts payable listing if anyone has any questions. The main items were for work that was performed at the parking lot behind Gary's over here. That was the CL trucking and the low light and power invoice.
I have a question. The Snyder Properties, the grading and the easement work, is that?
That is for the trail. Those are.
I wondered. Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so we committed contribution. So you have committed $200,000 up to this point for the trail. We used a portion of that $200,000 towards that payment. I believe Grand Rapids Gravel payment came out of that as well, correct?
I think, yes.
Yeah,
And then we're
because
gonna have
we have
one
like, yeah, we have a couple of different pockets as to where the funds are coming from. So, but the project is starting to really move forward. So we're going to start actually spending that money.
Any questions for Sue? Need a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Lori, and second by Brian. Any further questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Public comments for items not on the agenda. Old business, housing.
Yeah, Housing Next, unfortunately, they are not here today. They last minute, they couldn't make it, so they're going to be at our May meeting, and they will make their presentation then.
What's the date of that, May?
It'll be May, hang on, first Thursday after the first Monday, hang on. May 9th, yep.
I might not be back from South Carolina for graduation, but that's fine. New business, budget update?
Yep. So I'm submitting to you the proposed fiscal year budget for the upcoming 24-25 fiscal year. This past year, we actually saw an approximately $100,000 increase to what we had projected revenue-wise, and we actually budgeted about $950,000 in revenues, and we took over just over $1,050,000 in revenue. We're continuing to see increased land increases in the DDA and city. Proposal A is how municipalities are funded through property tax. The last year and this year, When they changed to Proposal A back in 1994, they capped your property taxes. They could not go above the rate of inflation or 5%, whichever is less. On average, over the 30 years Proposal A has been in place, we've seen about a 2.4% increase in taxable value annually. The last 2 years were the first 2 years ever since Proposal A has been established that we've seen statewide a 5% increase in property value inflation. So we are seeing quite a bit of revenue as a result of that. We've also had in the last few years, obviously with all the different marijuana establishments in the city and a lot of improvements that King Millings made. We've had abatements come offline from Lighthouse. We're seeing some we're seeing some pretty significant revenue coming back into the DDA. For example, when I came to Lowell back in 2016, I think our DDA has captured about $620,000 a year, and this year we're projected at $1.2 million. And the city has actually seen in the last 8 years, we have seen over a 50% increase in taxable value to the city that we've never seen that type of increase ever in the history, at least as far back as I can see in the city. And if you look at communities our size statewide, there isn't a city close to us percentage-wise generating the revenue we've received. I've looked, in Portland, DeWitt, Allegan, I'm trying to think, just Chelsea, Plymouth, communities that kind of are, and I would, Rockford, kind of communities that I kind of, from where I sit, I kind of gauge us to. We're exceeding them percentage-wise on taxable value. Some of them are seeing more dollars than we are, but percentage-wise, it's pretty impressive as to what's actually going on in the city. I think a lot of it has to do not just with what's going on in the west end of the city, but I mean we've also made significant improvements in the downtown in the last number of years. We're an attractive place that people want to do business and live. So we're seeing a benefit from that. What we're also starting to see, but you haven't seen it yet, but we're actually seeing the maximum. It's called the Headley limit, the maximum millage rate that we can levy. When I came, the city levies 15.7 mills currently. When I came here in 2018, the maximum the city could levy without a vote of the people was 17.2 mills. Today, that is about 16.2 mills. So even though we're not levying our full amount, that is going down, and eventually the growth is eventually going to keep forcing that millage rate down, and eventually it's going to come to the point where it does hit 15.7 mills and starts reducing our millage rate between the city and what the DDA captures. So, but we're also seeing significant taxable value increase, and then I'm anticipating if anything ever happens out at the freeway, that's when it's going to happen. That's when we're going to see the significant rollback. But our revenues are in very good shape. The issue is our expenditures are with the cost of inflation and everything like that. They're just going up, and there's really not much to cut. We've already made all those cuts years ago, and but what we're seeing right now in the city, and for example, how I crafted this budget this year, the general fund is also seeing a significant increase. The issue that's coming out of the general fund that would subsidize a lot of different things, the issue coming out of the general fund is we have seen a significant increase in the last 2 years as to our contributions to the fire department. Also, this Ware Road issue is a significant cost to the city. We were projecting $500,000 this year to address Ware Road. I was able to spread that out over 2 years, because if it was $500,000, I would have had to have dipped into our fund reserves, which I don't want to do. I'm trying to avoid to do that as much as I can. Plus, just our general costs are they're just going up. So, for example, with my staff last year, when they submitted their capital requests for building improvements, new equipment, new vehicles. Last year, I didn't deny any of them. Every request I was able to approve. This year, I think I approved one capital request to come out of the general fund. Actually, no, one capital request. And it was for a police car. And I had to creatively, I have to set up a new funding model and be able to fund police cars going forward. The other issue that's come up too is we've had to make significant upgrades to our IT. Our network security, our IT, I always thought it was in very good shape. In the last few years, we found out really how we never got hacked is beyond me, knowing what I know now. But we have made significant investments into our network security and basically our whole IT system. And this year, we also have some very significant upgrades that kind of come out of that. So the general fund, along with all the other funds, are kicking in towards that as well. So there's some significant costs coming towards the city out of our other funds. So this year, when I prepared the budget, I took a lot of there were a number of capital requests that needed to be had, but because they were in the DDA district and they're technically public improvements, the DDA statute allows us to do that, so I put them in your budget for consideration because they need to be addressed, and if they don't get addressed, the general fund cannot handle it. So, based on all of the other issues we're currently facing. I'm going to just kind of walk through the budget real quick. So,
do you think that's long term?
I think the Ware Road, well, the fire department, the IT stuff, no. The IT is probably like another year or two. We have these significant investments. The Ware Road's probably, the significant costs are probably a couple of years, but the Ware Road issue is never going to go away, probably. But the biggest issue right now, in my opinion, is the fire department cost. The fire department has grown quite substantially in the last few years. Quite honestly, the area has grown. We are no longer a sleepy, small little town. Our call for service volume is comparable to Cutlerville, Caledonia Township, Gaines. Our fire department is seeing call volume at those levels. And it requires, it costs money to be able to accommodate those calls for service. And so, I honestly think the city, I think the fire authority, the three municipalities need to come up with a new way to fund the fire department. And really need to, in my opinion, they need to get away from having the municipalities fund them. They need to become their own self-funding entity, in my opinion. And that would allow me, actually, if they were able to do that, my other pressing issue for the city is we need to double our police force. And if I was able to have that revenue that I spend on fire to put towards police, I could be able to accommodate most of that goal. So it's really kind of a balancing act every year in how we craft these budgets because we know what's coming in future needs. And then on top of it, there's roads. But the nice thing about roads, we have quite a bit of we've got a lot of projects. The marijuana money is allowing us to do a lot of streets that we never would be able to do. So the positive is we are making a lot of improvements that residents are seeing, mainly in our streets. We have $1.7 million in street projects, not including Washington this year. So that's pretty significant for a city our size. So while I state these issues with the budget, the positive thing is we are actually making some positive outcomes as well. So it's really a balancing act. So I hope I answered your question. So just kind of going through this year's budget this year. So we'll need to make we'll have to make some modifications, but just kind of updating as to where we're at with the current capital projects we have this year. This year we budgeted $37,500 for the museum steps, which we're currently working on. I carried over some funds from last year's budget that we didn't spend into this year's budget, so that's part of why the capital outlay increase went up. we have completed the first 2 phases of the reimbursement for the trail. We were probably going to just be giving Lara the remaining portion of that money just to kind of get it out of our budget, because Treasury doesn't like us sitting with very high balances. So we tried to, we're working on getting the money that we've already committed over to them so they can hold it and do what they need to for the trail project. And we did budget $20,000 for a Riverwalk Plaza design. You're going to get a proposal in May on that. We budgeted $192,000 approximately for Ottawa Street resurfacing. That's going to be going out for bid shortly. We completed, we did some lighting upgrades at Veterans Park. We completed those. It was $25,000. I think we did it for about $5,000 or $6,000. The proposal for the fountains is going to be coming to you in May to do the fountains in the river. We completed the library HVAC upgrades, and we've awarded 1 project with the handicapped access reimbursement funds. Originally budgeted $75,000. I actually reduced that budget down to about $10,000. And we also have had the flock cameras installed now probably for about 6 months. If you have not heard, we had a flock camera arrest last night. We had a stolen vehicle. We've had quite a few things with flocks, but this is probably one of the most significant ones we had. Last night we had a stolen vehicle drive through the city of Lowell out of Lansing, and it came back as a like we call it a flock hit. And one of our officers spotted the vehicle and a chase ensued. The pursuit actually went 66 miles. We have received assistance from City of Ionia, City of Belding, Ionia County, City of Rockford, City of Greenville, Montcalm County, I think City of Stanton. It went up into Stanton, came back down M57 into Rockford. There was a foot chase in downtown Rockford. We recovered the stolen vehicle, recovered some methamphetamine. So I would table that as a very good arrest. But we've had senior citizens we found because of it. So I think the flock cameras have been very good for us. And so I think we've done very well with that. We also just had to make some minor adjustments to our budget for overtime for the DPW with the snow removal. We had a miscalculation of our pension payments across all our funds, and we've just had some increased need for supplies that have just cost us more. So we made some minor tweaks to the budget this year. But for next year, we're considering the following. As we've done for the last number of years now, we're asking the DDA to contribute to the full amount for the DDA bond. This year the amount is reduced. Last year was $297,000. This year it's just over $293,000. As I've kind of stated, the PFAS issue at Ware Road, the fire department, and the IT issues that we need to address this year are significant strains to our general fund, which I'm sure I've explained it to you, but all the properties in the DDA, which is about 95% of all commercial properties in the city, all tax increase that has happened on those properties since 1993, that money goes straight to the DDA. It doesn't go to the general fund. So in essence, with the increased tax value of these properties, the DDA commercial properties, they're actually, for the most part, they're not subsidizing police, fire. They're subsidizing capital improvements to the district. They're not subsidizing our general operations. So but if we got rid of that money and made the DDA, just made it go to the city, it's about probably it's probably about $600,000 a year, but that's still $600,000 that goes away from the city that doesn't benefit us. So it's kind of a double-edged. How much?
Next year, almost 700.
Right, 700. I mean, that's a if we didn't have the DDA in place, it's a double-edged sword as to you know, how we would move the city forward. So it'd be nice for the general fund, I would say, it'd be nice to have the general fund to have that $600,000, but we couldn't do a lot of things that we do if we didn't have that, if we didn't set this up the way it is. So that's kind of how it's kind of how it's been set up for us. So, so there's that. So just some of the capital outlay projects we're proposing this year. $10,000, just over $10,000 for our second year subscription of the flock cameras. The DDA is paying for 3 cameras. The city's paying for 1 camera. I've already talked about the successes of that, and I recommend that we keep it. Well, we're already contractually obligated to that. Last year, we did a number of HVAC improvements to the library. The one item we didn't do last year was we didn't install the boiler. And it's going to be about a $60,000 cost. And it was one of those situations where they felt that they could get another year out of the boiler, and was just trying not to spend the money. So last year, we've budgeted $60,000 this year for a boiler installation. Also, we're also requesting $7,500 for a heater unit at the DPW building next to the restrooms. One of the projects I'm looking at is I've set aside $25,000 for RV stalls at Rec Park. We're not exactly sure what the cost is yet, but we were looking at probably starting off with maybe 4 stalls with water hookups. I've had conversations with Jessica from who works for the chamber, who used to be the director of the fair, and she's kind of just given us some suggestions as to how we want to manage that. What I really don't want the city to do, I don't think the city's equipped to handle something larger than maybe 4 or 5 stalls. I don't think the city wants Rec Park to look like a NASCAR event. And the other thing is I don't think we're equipped to manage it, and honestly, I don't want our staff. I would push back on our staff having to be responsible for managing an RV park.
I have a question on that.
Sure.
Is that, since it hasn't been decided what's happening with RV or with the Rec Park, I was surprised to see that in there. Is that something the city is going to manage? What's the return on investment? $25,000.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the. I'm just spitballing a number at this point.
Sure.
We haven't done a lot of looking at it, but I know there's been a lot of talk about wanting to have places for RVs. So now that the fair is gone, I felt it was at least a good time to at least have a starting point with it. The suggestion that Jessica has made to me, based on her experience out there, is just put 4 stalls in, and kind of just leave it at that. And basically, her recommendation was that if people want to use the stalls, they pay the city $50 a day to use the stalls, and it should cover itself. And like I said, that $25,000, it might be $5,000, it might be $10,000. I don't know what that number is, but I wanted to at least put a placeholder in so we knew, we at least have a starting point. So hope that answers the question.
So do you have a map plan for where?
Yeah, we're looking, the area we were looking at was just south of the Foreman building, kind of where the old concession stands were. If you go down that road, like, you have the Reef Barn on the one side, kind of across the street, there was trees like across from the Reef Barn, but if you went a little bit north off that street, or off that pathway, we would probably just put a couple right there.
Where St. Pat's booth was?
Yes, that's kind of where we were looking at.
Mike, are those movable? Like if plans get developed to use more of that space, is that gonna?
At this point, I don't have a definitive answer for you.
Okay.
Like I said, this is conceptual at this point. Well, I'm just starting a placeholder. The other thing that we're requesting is upgrading the audiovisual to this building, to this room. This is the original, for the most part, this audio is the original system 21 years ago. It has reached its end of useful life. And our audio-visual, this doesn't even work anymore. We're looking at maybe putting, instead of having projection screens, maybe putting whiteboards or television screens and just reformatting this room. And like even the $25,000 for that is, there's a place there, that's really a placeholder number. We actually have started having people look at it, and it's probably going to be closer to the $35,000, $40,000 range. But we have a lot of extra money this year that if we need it, we can use it. The other project we're proposing is $55,000 for masonry improvements at the Foreman building. It is in the district. It needs improvements. The building is in rough shape. Eventually, the city is going to have to build a new facility for that, but we don't have the money for it. So we're trying to limp that along as best as we can.
That's the building that they have the trucks and stuff in, is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Storing salt and sand.
Correct. Yes.
Is not easy on a building.
No, and it's gotten nicked a few times with our equipment. We've had, it's an old building. It was, and I liked, one of the things we're actually looking at is if we do the water plant expansions, we're trying to see whether or not we can put a pole barn in out at the water plant to alleviate this. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're looking at it. Rich and I are trying to see if we can figure something out there. There's $25,000 for masonry repairs at City Hall. There's a significant crack in the masonry on the west side of this building that has to be repaired. Last summer, the brick actually shifted on the building, and it happened like on a Saturday. It was like an 80-degree day, and it shifted the brick. And we had a structural engineer come in and look at it, and it's cracked, and so we need to fix it. So it's being requested from the DDA to cover that. That building's in the DDA district, public improvement. It's an allowable expense. We have a request from the museum, about $21,450 for some tuck pointing and painting. The museum's an old building. It's in the DDA district. It's a public building. It's a public improvement, so it's an eligible expense. We've already spent about $15,000 for the Monroe Street Island. We'd like to complete that project. They're currently engineering it right now. I hope to have some more discussion with you in the next month or two about that project, and we can get that addressed. And then lastly, we have $14,000 to replace the Broadway Street gate near King Milling. It was put in about 7 years ago, so it's probably time for a replacement.
It's not a gate, though.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like
a gate would be easier.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but it's a fence. Yeah. We've budgeted $80,000 for marketing. That's our normal costs that we normally do. Our $4,000 for the social district, which we normally do. In your packet, we've provided your budget and cash flow. Just to understand too, for the street project, when I budget streets, I always plan them the year before I actually do the streets, so I have the money available when it's time to do the streets. In most instances, I can do it that way, and for accounting purposes, cash flow purposes, it works better for the city. And since Ottawa is in the DDA district, we're going to that's how we plan on addressing that this year. If we spend all our money as budgeted, we would still have $328,000 approximately in our fund balance at the end of next fiscal year. This is 27% of the equivalent of the tax capture, and the DDA is in very sound financial condition, and I'm recommending the DDA budget approve the budget as presented.
Mike, I have two questions.
Sure.
The handicap numbers.
Yes.
I don't understand the $10,000 and the $25,000. There's, on your list, there's two, and then on the chart.
I might have made a typo. Hang on, let me look.
On your list.
Let me look. Hang on.
The 10,000 is this year.
10,000 this year, 25 next. I believe is what I did.
Right.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to. I mean, we've got no request. We probably won't even spend the 10,000
Right.
this year.
Yeah,
So,
no,
but I wanted to leave some money in there. I wanted to leave
Yeah.
25 grand in there. because I don't know if people are gonna take advantage of it. I mean, we've made it available. I wanna make it available to the businesses that are eligible. I mean, the commercial properties in the district, that generate property tax, they're all eligible for it.
Okay.
I wanna make it available for people if they come to us and say they'd like to do it. I'd like to think $25,000 is a decent amount, and the nice situation is if we get more requests than what we have, I think we're in a situation where we can just allocate more money to it.
No, absolutely, no,
So-
25,000 is great.
Yeah.
I just was confused by the two numbers
Sure.
on the first page there.
Sure.
My other question was, and I don't know if this is the time for it or some other time, crosswalks in the city, in the downtown area are terrible.
Mhm.
There's more and more and more traffic in downtown. I don't know if that comes out of DDA budget or
So,
what, but it's
well, what are you
dangerous.
talking about? Are you talking about like handicap ramps?
No, totally different subject. The crosswalks on the street that should be painted white slashes where
Right.
people are crossing, most of them you can't even see.
Right, we paint once a year.
Okay,
So
That's
our,
planned?
yeah, it's every year, they come through and paint. They usually do it around July. The DPW will come through. Either that or we'll have a painting contract, depending on how they approach it. But they do it every year. The crosswalks we have in place should be painted.
good. Yeah, because there's more and more traffic.
Mhm.
Now it's lighter in the evenings, but I walked
Yeah,
the length in the kind of dusk times. It is really dangerous because you can't even see the crosswalks. And I think it would slow people down. Everybody complains about the crosswalk
Sure.
by Flat River Girls. So, okay, good. I'm glad that's.
No, but our normal path, we normally do it. I can't remember if we paid, I thought we did. Last year, we didn't have a director for a period of time, so it might have got missed, I don't remember. But our plan normally is every year, everything is to be paid.
It'd be great if it could be done before Riverwalk Festival, just because they're so.
Sure,
And especially with the new restaurants and stuff.
Sure.
There's a lot of.
I'll
traffic.
mention it.
Thank you.
Anything else for, Mike, as far as the budget, annual budget update? None, we'll, need a motion to approve the budget.
I'll go ahead.
Brian, is there a second?
A second.
Charlie? All those, any further discussion or questions for Mike on that? If none, all those in
I
favor?
would just, at some point, these general operating expenses should go back to the general fund and not be on the DDA perpetually.
I would love to do that, I can't promise
I
that.
know, but I'm just putting
Yeah,
that caveat on.
fair enough.
And I'll just, add to my support for the, the DDA doing a lot of, whether it's the mornings on the city hall or some of those other things that, if the DDA were not here, that money would be going into the general fund. With that being said, we capture a lot of money that wouldn't go to the general fund.
Correct.
Because we're here too, so it's, like I said, a double-edged sword, but I don't have a problem with, having a good chunk of our money go to.
And I would argue that,
Continuous expenses.
I would argue these are capital expenses, these are not really R&M. I try not to bring you R&M stuff, I try to bring you capital. And everything that we're asking for is, for the most part, it's a capital asset that we're asking for replacement.
Okay, any other discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Reports and member comments. Start with Lisa. Anything?
Nope.
Rob?
I think I said mine.
Brian?
Just happy with the flat cameras got what they got.
Yeah, it was good. Good hit.
Rick?
I'm good.
Charlie?
My only concern is getting into the campground situation at the fairgrounds. It's going to be a pretty quick path to walk down.
Yeah. Less is more, in my opinion.
Who gets the lots? How do I get it? How do I get a reservation?
It's gonna be first come, first served.
Yeah.
It's,
Favoritism, I can just see a real quick path there.
yeah, I'd rather, like I said, I don't wanna be in the RV management business. I don't think that's a function of the city.
I don't see it as a.
I only found out with the flash flood that was very costly.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got the same situation there.
Yep.
I'm good.
I'd just like to take the time to thank King Lane and congratulate them on their opening their 4th mill. Benton Baker, again, Charlie, nice to have you on board. I appreciate Benton Baker sticking into town. We had the talk of the highway being developed. That was one of my great fears, that we lose another car dealer to the highway, so I'm glad Benton Baker was able to stick around here. And I was down in Florida for a little bit, speaking of crosswalks, and they have lighted crosswalks. I don't know if that's something that we could.
I would love lighted car. I think it would be the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, I don't know if that would, because they have, they don't have the snow.
I saw,
We
when
have to deal with,
when I was driving through Alabama on my way home, I saw an overhead crosswalk in a smaller community that we passed through. And I wish I took a picture of it. Well, I can go online and Google it, but the first thing that popped in my mind is I'd love to have that at the Riverwalk, but I see, I'm not letting us have that. But.
and the other thing about the crosswalks, I don't know if it's practical to look into, the downward projection of the lights by where the Riverwalk crosses to the Veterans Park.
Mm-hmm.
If somehow that could be lit better, because it is very dark.
Okay.
People crossing there. I know we got the overhead lights for the traffic, but if we could somehow.
You're talking about like the Veterans Park lighting, is that what you're saying?
Not the veterans, just for people crossing that street at night. If you got a dark outfit on.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for people to see that.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's because of just the overhead light is just dispersed so much, but.
I'll mention it to Rich.
You know, it would help cars slow down more too.
I agree.
That's all I have, so otherwise we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Stay here.